just pass me by. We travel through the light to a city shining white. To a city shining white.
Are you ready?
I'm ready when you are.
Oh man, it's time for a podcast. Oh, so hello and welcome to Learning the Law podcast about all things legal with a focus on current events where we try to teach you things in an hour. My name is Ashley, aka Phoenix Nymphy, my co-host who is the man of the hour, my husband, Ron. This podcast is purely educational and should not be taken as legal advice. This podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. This podcast is based on his interpretation of relevant law, and any opinions expressed are the opinions of the individuals making them and do not reflect the opinions of any firm, company, or other individuals. Ron is a licensed practicing attorney in the state of California.
Since September of 99.
Yes. Our sponsor this week is lawyer.com with 10 plus years of matching experience and technology development. Lawyer.com is proud to make thousands of lawyer connections each week. Lawyer.com connects users nationwide with lawyers in all areas of law. Please use our referral link to help out the podcast and find yourself a lawyer in your area. You can find that link in the description on YouTube and in the description on all of your in the description everywhere, and also in the show notes. And yes, so we have a lot of things to announce today. It's been a crazy last couple weeks. I have been mentally and physically just unwell, just struggling to get through things. So I started therapy a few weeks ago. I go like every other week. So about a month now. I've had 2 therapy sessions, and they getting back into the swing of therapy stuff. It's a lot. So just trying to get that mental thing going. But good news, we are working on Patreon content. We've had a few of you actually request just some fun little extra stuff, and we've been debating on how we want to do this, and we think we've finally figured it out. So we will be watching A Time to Kill, and we will have Ron's we'll record Ron's commentary and responses to the movies. We're going to start with A Time to Kill. If you guys have suggestions on movies that you want him to watch to get his reaction from, give us some suggestions. We've got a list of some awesome movies that we really want to do this with, so we will have that out on Patreon at the end of the month. I don't have any of that stuff set up, so I'm hoping within the next couple weeks I will have that stuff set up. What else do we have to update? Podcast wise, I finally got episode 25 up on our hosting site, so you can now listen to it anywhere. It's not just on YouTube. I have edited it and everything, so it is now available. And we do have a bonus episode that will be coming out. We just have not had a chance to find time to record it, but it will be discussing the Twitch content and the Twitch lawsuits, which we keep teasing that, and I have to learn how to organize and produce stuff in a better manner. So, just got a lot going on, but we are very excited. So by the end of the month, we will have both that bonus podcast and the commentary from watching A Time to Kill. Now, due to copyright laws, we will not have the movie in the background or anything because we can't do that, but I got an idea, so we'll see how that works. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
So that's the latest updates for the podcast. I hope y'all are excited. I'm excited to produce more content for the podcast. Very excited.
It's gonna be fun.
So we love to do questions from the audience. So if y'all ever have any questions, please send them in to us. We like to address them at the beginning of the podcast. But the topic this week, well, do you want to talk about our week? Do you have any? You had physical therapy today. Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
It's getting easier to use my new leg.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can
went
talk
to
about.
Disneyland,
I was just about to say you could talk about Disney.
which I got to go on just about every ride I wanted to go on, except for Space Mountain, because it's hard to step that fake leg into a bucket seat that's 2 feet below you.
Well,
Although somebody should have gotten that on video, because that was hilarious trying me get in that thing.
It was definitely an adventure. And to the guy who was helping us out at Disney on Space Mountain,
I know his first name.
What's his first name?
His first name was Matt.
Matt. To Matt, who works at Disney on the Space Mountain ride, thank you very much for your patience and your kindness and all of your help. You were very sweet, and he was just so patient with us, and he didn't seem frustrated at all. And it was because it was kind of awkward trying to get you in and out of that thing. But I think with more physical therapy, you'll be able to get in and out of that no problem. It's just you just gotta learn how to maneuver.
And it will definitely be easier to get into it without the prosthetic on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that you'll ever be able to ride that ride again. It may be a situation of you won't be able, because your frame is so large. It was already difficult for you to get in and out of that before you ever had your leg removed. Just because you are just big and bulky. It's just, there's no leg room in that thing for you. There's never been leg room for you.
Right. That's why I thought this time I'd be able to ride it, because I have a lot less leg for there to be room for.
But you got to be able to get into it. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, yes, let's move on to the topic. We only have an hour, and we have a lot to talk about. So today, Ron wanted to kind of talk about the docket. So we'll start off. Our topic of the week, the big topic, is the DOJ lawsuit against Texas. And just like the Texas abortion bill or abortion law, we're going to go through, just like all of the other lawsuits we've done in the past, we're going to go through it. We will link all of that stuff for you as well. But we're going to go through it and read it and kind of explain it to you as we have before, and give our thoughts and our opinions on it, because it's the best way to educate, right? Is to just go over it with you, essentially. So, first things first.
Okay, so the first major case that should be coming up on the Supreme Court docket is a Mississippi abortion ban. And
That's what, Mississippi versus Tennessee, right?
um, I believe that's it.
So
I don't
that
have
was
the caption.
well, I linked it
But
in the thing that
okay,
says
it's
calendar. That's so this is a
yeah.
link to not only just the calendar, but you can click on it and it will take you to the docket as well. Plaintiff State of Mississippi respectfully submits the following exceptions to the report of the special master issued on November 5th, 2020. Takes exception to, and this court should decline to adopt the special master's recommendation that the Supreme Court dismiss Mississippi's complaint with leave to file an amended complaint based on the court's. Do you see it?
I don't see it. No.
Are
But
you
what I
are
do
you
know,
looking at the document?
no, I don't even see a link.
Okay, are you looking at our notes?
Yeah,
Do you see the calendar that's under SCOTUS document?
I see it. I can't click on it.
Click on it.
Okay.
Click the thing that says monthly argument.
Okay.
All right. It'll come up with an HTML version of the calendar and list. October term 2021. Did you come up with that page?
I did.
Okay. Do you see the link? The link over there to the left of Mississippi versus Tennessee?
I do. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Now you see what I'm following?
Now I do see what you're following.
And that is set for. So apparently that was Monday, October 4th. Is that the right thing?
No.
Okay, so I'm not even looking at the right thing.
No, Mississippi in this thing is suing Tennessee, and I don't really care about it.
Okay, so this says Supreme Court docket, Supreme Court of the United States, October term 2021. This is what they're working on, right?
In October, yes.
Okay, so is this not what we're.
The session runs October into December.
Okay.
So
Okay, then I had the wrong thing.
Some of what I'm going to be talking about are not coming up right in October, but it will be heard this term.
Okay. So where is this calendar list thing that you're looking at? Where did you find it?
I just Googled Supreme Court docket, October term 2021.
Okay.
Here's I can put it in here. There you go. See that?
Well, now I have to. Where did you put it?
Right underneath your calendar link.
Oh, you put it in. Oh, thank God. Okay, you put it in there. There we go. Okay. All right.
Okay, so
I was looking at the actual website.
right. I mean, there's a lot on the docket, and a lot that really does not matter a whole lot because they're not the big ones. They're just individual kind of arguments.
Oh, so you're just looking at the big stuff is what you're looking at.
What's considered to be the big stuff that everybody should look at.
The stuff that's going to set precedent.
Right. And affect your life.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah. Mississippi. There's a Mississippi abortion ban that explicitly bans most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, which is before viability of a fetus, and is counter to the rulings of Roe v. Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood, and the attorneys have explicitly are asking the court to overturn those.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, it's very possible that Roe will be overturned by this case. So
So
that's going to be heard this
for
fall at some point.
for so I have heard you say they're not going to overturn Roe v. Wade. They're not, but now you're saying you're changing your tune. They could.
There's the possibility, yeah.
So, do you still think they're going to overturn it? Because here's
I didn't think so prior to the Texas heartbeat bill,
yeah.
but then they took the coward's way out and did not take the case and let it go through, knowing that it directly contradicted Roe versus Wade on its face.
Yeah.
So this Supreme Court is allowing a law that is currently unconstitutional to be in effect because they didn't want to rule on it.
Do you think they're possibly hoping that it will be dealt with in the lower court system and then they don't even have to worry about it? Or do you think that's maybe what they're hoping for?
I think they're hoping that the lower courts will just uphold the law and then they cannot take the case.
Oh, okay.
Which is that's another cowardly way out.
Yeah.
If they want to overrule Roe versus Wade, they should overrule it.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, if you look at the amount of people who actually want to overturn Roe v. Wade, it's not the majority.
No, it's a minority by far.
Yeah. It's an extreme minority. The problem is that minority is a minority that has money.
Yeah. Has money and it has power.
Yeah, it's a minority that has money and has power. And so that's the big problem with it. So but the thing is, if they do overturn Roe v. Wade and everything gets set backwards, then the GOP doesn't have anything anymore as a platform. Like, they've already succeeded, that they did the one thing that their platform. See, that's my thing. If they do overturn Roe v. Wade, then the GOP doesn't have anything left. Unless
they do
outright start banning someone because they're black or because they're a woman or because they're Asian, right? Like, in my opinion, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, all we're going to do is step back in civil rights for not just women, but every marginalized person and every person that is not a white man.
Granted, what they're going to do, this is the effect. There's a thing called stare decisis, which is basically the legal theory that you let prior law be the law. If very rarely have they gone back on decades-old law and overturned it.
But it does happen.
Yes, Brown v. Board of Education, where they said that you had to integrate the schools. There's no such thing as separate but equal because it is inherently unequal.
Mm-hmm.
And that set, I believe, that overturned the Dred Scott
Papers
decisions. Yeah, back in like the late 1800s. And so they can overrule it. Now, we haven't gone in depth on Roe v. Wade, but most people just think Roe v. Wade said, yes, abortion is legal. Here's the guidelines that make it legal. But underlying the that ruling was the theory that there is an implied right of privacy in the Constitution. Overruling Roe v. Wade will most likely also decide that this implied right of privacy does not really exist.
Therefore, HIPAA.
No, HIPAA's a law.
Okay.
HIPAA would survive. And these
But the
originalists,
right of privacy, meaning the government can now legally spy on you.
outside of your protection against unlawful searches and seizure, or unreasonable searches and seizure, sorry. Yeah. Yep, certainly
So
could.
overturning Roe v. Wade does not just affect abortion. It
No,
affects your actual privacy.
Yep.
And that's why we will, this is just building up to get to Roe v. Wade. And because we're going to have, that's probably where we're going to go next after this. So then let's just jump into the DOJ lawsuit. But, well, what was there anything else on the SCOTUS document that you wanted to mention?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And these are just going to be nutshells. They're not going to be in depth. I'm just telling you what's coming up. There's going to be a case of concealed carry in New York.
Okay.
Where they passed a law that if you want a concealed weapon in New York, you got to have a good reason. Now, the Supreme Court has already said you can have a concealed weapon in your own home. This is the challenge of somebody who wants to take it outside of the home.
Yeah, I know that New York's gun laws are extremely, it's much harder to get a gun in New York, and it's hard to get a concealed carry permit. It's a lot harder to get access to the legal process. Like the legal process for all of that it's just more difficult.
Right. It's hard to get a concealed carry in California.
Yeah, whereas it's not in Georgia at all.
Right.
Which I don't know that. I mean, I wonder if there is I'm curious if there is a statistic showing by state the mass shootings. Is it the one, is it the states where it's easier to get access to the guns, or does it matter?
It's true. I don't know. I would bet just from common sense that the places where there's easier access to guns has more mass shootings.
Yeah, but at the same time, having easy access to guns doesn't necessarily equal the law stuff, right? Because
right. And having equal access to guns does not mean that is the cause of the mass shootings.
Right. Correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. It's just, I'm curious, those states that have the harder, because you could make the argument, if, say, okay, let's compare New York and Georgia. Say New York has, New York's got a much stricter gun law, and Georgia is a lot looser, but New York is the one who has more mass shootings. Then you could argue that, well, it's because your gun laws are so restrictive. I'm just curious, what the statistics are, and if there is even a correlation or a causation there, and if it even matters, right? That's where my brain is. I don't want to use it as I just want to know,
You also have to define what a mass shooting is.
It would have to.
Is it shooting 2 or 3 people in the middle of a robbery? Because that can be considered a mass shooting. Or is it going to some public place and just opening up?
I'm talking more like that, like Columbine kind of shit. That's what I'm talking about. Not a burglary gone wrong, where the intent is literally to just shoot people.
Right. So in order to find those statistics, you have to define your search parameter.
Right. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yep.
Those were just thoughts.
Okay. There's going to be 2 death penalty cases. One of which involves the Boston Marathon bomber. You remember that?
Yes.
There was he had gotten the death penalty. It got overturned because the lower court said there wasn't a fair jury. And then the Trump administration asked the court to reinstate his death penalty. And so that case is still going on. The Biden administration has not dropped that,
Okay.
even though it could, and just leave him at his life without parole. So
I would be fine with that.
there's that case. And then there's another case where a person on death row has asked for his pastor to be present and basically holding his hand while he dies.
Whoa.
And it's been denied.
Interesting.
Prior, the pastor could be in an adjoining room looking through the window and stuff. But, religious liberty.
Oh, that'll be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I am a person who says we should just get rid of the death penalty altogether. And I used to think the complete exact opposite.
As did I. Prior to becoming an attorney, I was very pro-death penalty. I wanted my ETV. And then I learned exactly how it's implemented in this country. So it's inherently
Racist.
Yeah. It is. And
there's a lot of people who are on death row who shouldn't be on death row because of evidence.
157 people have been released from death row.
Yeah.
So
it's just a lot of people who are in jail for no reason because they're Black. Literally, that's their reason. And I'm sorry, but if you're a pro-life person, you should not be pro-death penalty because you're taking a life. Because an adult life, like...
Even from a religious view, you are denying him an opportunity
to repent.
From a conservative Christian view,
Mm-hmm.
you are denying him his chance at redemption.
And I mean, yeah.
So anyhow, there's going to be another case about tuition for religious schools.
Oh, yes.
And that's in, I believe, Maine.
Yeah, because something about the private schools, right? Like how they get public school money, but they shouldn't.
Right. There's vast rural sections of Maine that don't have public schools, believe it or not. They have mainly private schools, and there's religious schools in those sections that have been denied state-supported tuition that the private schools in the area get.
People pay to go to your school. You don't need that. You don't need what a public school needs. Sorry.
Right, but the people that pay to go to your school and people that pay to go to the other schools that are non-religious get government support for those non-religious schools. So they want to have...
Oh, wait, there's private non-religious schools who get government money?
Yeah.
Okay, a private school, period, shouldn't get government money unless they're getting money to sponsor an underprivileged kid. Right?
Interestingly enough, the reason they get that is because there is no public school.
Well, then don't be a private school. You should be a public school then. Like, I mean, the whole school system, whatever. I'm not going down that tangent because we're already halfway through. So,
yeah.
I'm not going down that tangent. We'll just continue on.
And then there's state secrets. There's a person in Guantanamo Bay that wants to get out. He's been there for almost 20 years. They haven't set a trial or anything for him. He's just there in jail.
Jesus Christ.
And he can't get the information he wants for his defense because national security.
He has a right to a speedy trial.
Yeah, one would think so. Yeah.
Wow.
And an attorney and a jury trial, but
Yeah.
denied rights to their attorney.
Oh, I'm aware. That's a whole other
Yep. And then
other thing that is not related to this podcast.
And then finally, there's a case of affirmative action at Harvard where there's a challenge to how Harvard University considers race in its undergraduate admission process.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they saying Harvard's racist? Because that's not surprising to me.
There's a group that's charging Harvard University is discriminating against Asian American students. And listen to this, in its admission process in order to boost African American and Hispanic enrollment. Yeah.
That's so weird. I'm so confused. The point of that.
This is one of the rare instances of
the chat. So y'all have it. There we go.
Okay. And here we go. In the preliminary statement, page 1, paragraph 1, the United States says it is settled constitutional law that a state may not prohibit any woman from making the ultimate decision to terminate her pregnancy before viability. That comes from the 1992 Planned Parenthood v. Casey case and in conjunction Roe v. Wade. Yet, they're alleging that's what Texas just did.
Is Texas... They're alleging that Texas is prohibiting women from making their own decisions.
Correct.
I mean, so I will say the argument to that is, well, you can get an abortion, you just can't get it in Texas. You can choose to get an abortion, you just can't get it in Texas. But we established in the last 2 episodes that doesn't matter because they can still sue you.
Correct.
Because they can sue you from their state or from their county. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see...
And if you live in Texas, they can sue you if you go out of state to get it.
Yeah, so I don't see how you could argue that, well, she can make the decision on her own. Well, yeah, but she can't enact that decision. And that's where the disconnect is.
Right. And so in paragraph 2, they allege that Texas enacted SB 8. That's just what I'm going to call it. It's the heartbeat abortion law.
Mm-hmm.
In open defiance of the Constitution. And they go on and say why it's in open defiance. And they adopted an unprecedented scheme to, quote, insulate the state from responsibility.
Yes, that is exactly what they did. They built it in a way to keep themselves from having to be responsible for enforcing the law, which means they don't have to get in trouble.
They are alleging that the state has deputized ordinary citizens to serve as bounty hunters who are authorized by law to recover at least $10,000 per claim. That is true. My question is, if you've deputized somebody, you have made them a state actor. They are an agent of the state. So ultimately, the state is still responsible for their actions.
Oh.
You should be able to still go after the state on this.
Okay. So is that how is that what they're trying to define here? Because they've deputized these people? Is that part of their argument?
They're arguing that that whole scheme is unconstitutional as basically a forfeiture of Texas's inalienable sovereignty.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then in paragraph 3, they're saying it takes little imagination to discern Texas's goal to make it too risky for an abortion clinic to operate in the state, thereby preventing women throughout Texas from exercising their constitutional right. And that's pretty true, because as soon as this went into effect, a lot of the abortion clinics stopped providing that service.
They did. It was almost immediate because they did not want to deal. And didn't you say that there was a doctor who said, "Hey, I do abortion, sue me," so that they could start, and somebody from another state is
Oklahoma and Arkansas, I think,
are actually suing him, but not because they believe it, because they want it to go through the system. They're actually all on the same side.
Right.
And they want it to go ahead and start going through the system.
Correct. And my other thought is, if somebody sues you, one of these state agents sues you, you should countersue them for denying you your civil rights.
Yeah.
As a state actor.
Yeah. I'm just curious how the different lawyers are going to do this in Texas, and if they're going to have to get lawyers outside of the state to come in and do it.
They're going to need some help. So yeah, outside lawyers will come in, but there's Texas lawyers that will take this on.
Are there? Because it seems like all the lawyers and lawmakers in Texas don't give a crap about women.
Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center, even though they're headquartered in a different southern state, I forget exactly which one, they still have chapters in there.
Isn't it Arkansas or Kansas or
it might even be Alabama.
You know what? I think you're right.
And then, the ACLU is in every state.
Right. But no, I was just making a comment about how Texas is a horrible place. And the people in Texas. What's funny is the majority of Texas is actually not Republican.
No, the state is just gerrymandered so much that Republicans still hold all the power.
Yeah. Which is, listen to our previous podcast on gerrymandering as we where we discuss on why that shouldn't exist.
Right. And so in paragraph 5, the government brings a suit to protect the federal interest of basically the United States. That's all that really says. And so page 3 here, they go through the jurisdiction and venue, who the parties are, what the federal, and then in page 4, you get down to the law. What's the constitutional right for abortion?
Okay. And this is where we go into Roe v. Wade, right?
Right. Quote, a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy is a constitutional right due to Roe in 1973. And then 30 years ago, the court reaffirmed that in the Casey case. And most recently, a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy before viability was reaffirmed in a 2020 case where Roberts wrote the opinion, quoting Casey.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they reaffirmed it because John Roberts, Supreme Justice, John Roberts wrote about it and stated, this is our opinion on this. So if that
Right.
is true, then the Supreme Court should still hold true to that opinion. It's only
The
been a year.
a year in which Coney Barrett is now a vote.
Yeah. Mm.
So even if he and hasn't been true with a lot of the things that Roberts votes on, he gives a lot of weight to stare decisis and letting the law be the law.
Yeah.
And so without that tradition, every time there's a change in administration, you're going to see the law change.
Right.
And if the law is that fluid, if the Constitution doesn't mean what the Constitution says from one administration to another, then we have no law.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Which is why this is a much bigger thing than you would think, because if they do change it, that means it doesn't matter.
Right.
That means our laws do not matter. And things will go into chaos.
Right. And with that, the Supreme Court becomes a joke.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a joke now because of the people that are on it, because of the fact that Trump got to a 0.3, because Congress screwed around and wouldn't let Obama appoint a person, which he was supposed to as a president.
With this, I will say, according to the Constitution, with the advice and consent of the Senate.
But they didn't do anything.
They didn't consent. No.
They didn't, they deliberately...
They didn't do anything. If they really wanted to do something, they should have put it to a vote and voted the guy down. But once again, just like the Supreme Court, they abandoned their constitutional duty to do something.
Right, because they're run by Mitch Turtle McConnell, who needs to go away.
It would have been the same outcome. Don't get me wrong on that. They would have voted him down because it was a Republican majority in the Senate. But they still should have done it.
Yeah, they're circumventing their duty, their process, because they don't like a black man. They're circumventing their duty because they don't like Democrats. It's so childish. It is very hard for me not to curse on this, because the people who are... It's childish. It's childish. You have a job. This is your job. I don't care. People's lives are at risk. You're literally putting our laws at a point where they mean nothing. They mean nothing if we overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, and in the holding of a case from the 2016 Supreme Court that is quoted in the DOJ lawsuit, Whole Women's Health versus Hellerstadt, quote, state laws that prohibit abortion prior to viability or impose an undue burden on a woman's right to obtain an abortion before viability violate the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment.
Basically, that just says that state rights mean nothing because this is a federal situation. So,
we'll get into it. There's a supremacy clause of the Constitution, is that the Constitution is the law of the land.
Mm-hmm.
does not matter what your state law is. State Constitution overrules your state law. Constitution overrules federal law if there's a conflict. Federal law overrules state laws.
Yeah.
And so, once again, the Texas law is in direct contradiction to that holding right there. Because women in Texas now have an undue burden to try and find an abortion.
Yeah, because they have to drive thousands of miles from the middle of nowhere to a complete other state, sometimes with their children, to have an abortion.
Right. And let's not forget there is an exception to the heartbeat abortion bill in that any one of the legislature or their government employees cannot be sued under this. So when Governor Abbott, wants an abortion for his mistress, he can get one. But you as a common person cannot.
A commoner cannot, right?
Right. It's
A
good to be the
civilian.
king.
Yeah, it's good to be king. Yeah.
And then as you go through pages 4, 5, and 6, it's basically the complaint is showing how it's the prerogative of the United States to seek relief from state laws that violate constitutional right. And they cite, case after case of why this is true.
Oh, they're citing cases stating these are other times in which the DOJ has had to step in to stop a state from being a douchebag.
Correct.
I hope people really like my interpretation of what you're telling me, because it's the only way, that's just how I retain information. Y'all, I'm sorry. Okay. Jesus, man.
Yeah, once again, there's a doctrine of intergovernmental immunity that arises from the supremacy clause we just talked about in the Constitution that reflects the principle that states have no power to retard, impede, burden, or in any manner control the operations of constitutional laws enacted by Congress to, in effect, the power vested in the national government.
So what
that
is
means
that?
is,
Okay, thank
once
you.
again, Texas, you're overstepping your bounds. You're merely a state. You're not a country into and of yourself, and you're going to have to abide by current constitutional and federal laws. Basically, that section is the U.S. telling Texas to go go fly a kite, go pound sand, as my grandma would say.
Now I'm curious, what other states have enacted the same abortion or tried so far?
There's been 8 or 9 other states. I want to say like Mississippi and Arkansas and Oklahoma. I could be wrong on Oklahoma, but I don't think I am. That have been thrown out for this exact violation, except for the way it's implemented with the deputization of private citizens.
So other states couldn't even get it to go through, but
Correct.
Texas was able to get it to pass.
Right. And they passed them. The states passed them, and the Supreme Court and the courts of appeal shot them down.
Okay, so why didn't the Supreme Court do it this time?
Because of the, quote, unique way of enforcing it.
Oh.
Which to me is a cowardly way out, because it's still Texas enforcing it just through agents that are private citizens.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a way for them to overturn without saying, "Hey, we didn't overturn it." You know. And then the next pages 7 through 8, go into the heartbeat abortion bill. They just basically quote the bill. We've already kind of gone through it.
At length, actually.
Yes.
Oh, page 9. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. Page 9, right there at the top. SB 8 deputizes private parties to act as state actors in a public enforcement scheme and uses the judicial system to deprive women of their constitutional rights.
Public enforcement scheme. That was deliberate. That is scheme is a deliberate choice in word.
Right. It's not scenario. It's not tactic. It's a scheme.
Because that alludes to it being underhanded. And it just like, man, lawyers are wordsmiths.
Yeah.
Because they have to choose the right word to really emphasize what they're going for. And public enforcement scheme is the best explanation of what this is. Like that scheme to scheme. Like it's like they're going, because coming from the DOJ, that makes it seem that using that word scheme makes it seem like it's a parent punishing a child. Like the parent is now, disciplining the child because the child is trying to do things behind the parent's back that the child shouldn't, right? Like that's what that, because when you use scheme, it kind of puts a hierarchy there. Like, I don't know. Does that, do you get that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like a Ponzi scheme,
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in paragraph 30 on page 10, you'll see why it's considered hard to bring a suit. And it gives a quote. It says, "It is practically impossible to bring a pre-enforcement challenge to statutes that establish private rights of action because the litigants, that is the plaintiffs, who will enforce a statute are hard to identify until they actually bring suit."
So they are deliberately calling them out because they are calling them out specifically for making it hard to challenge this law until someone brings a suit against.
Right.
Like,
See,
that is, they read it and knew exactly what Texas is doing, and they are calling Texas out on everything. Everything that we call Texas out on, this is what they're calling them out on.
see, yeah, it's basically the equivalent of the sheriff of an old western town posting a wanted dead or alive bill. The sheriff himself is a bit too cowardly to go after the outlaw, so bounty hunters will enforce that wanted dead or alive.
But in this case, you don't know if that particular bounty is somebody worth killing.
Right. And from my legal opinion, who cares who the plaintiffs are? They are given in power from the state of Texas.
Yeah.
You just because you don't know who the actual plaintiffs are doesn't mean you can't stop the enforcement action of a agent of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
You can. I don't know why that isn't being brought up, but
Okay.
okay. And then to answer your question, and 31, one of the senators um, of Texas who wrote this was basically quoted as saying that the structure was intended to avoid the fate of other, quote, heartbeat bills that have been struck down as unconstitutional. And then it gives an article of the Wall Street Journal. And probably in that September, I can't, whatever article that is of the Wall Street Journal, it will give you a list of all the states.
September 9th, 2021 was the article. I'm pretty sure that we actually read it a bit. It actually links to it you can link to it. But we are actually getting to the end, and I really have to go pee.
Okay. We're in the middle of page 10. We can start back up with our next one as we go through the rest.
Go after them for it. Seems like they are doing that.
Well, I hope so. We haven't gone through it all, but
yeah, let's.
Somebody needs to go after them for it. And let's see. Yeah, paragraph 32. It goes back to this whole undue burden and enforcement of the state law by deputies again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the action of state courts and of judicial officers in their official capacities to be regarded as action of the state within meaning of the 14th Amendment is a proposition which has long been established by decisions of the Supreme Court. And they said a 1948 case.
Yeah.
And so basically, while Texas has gone to unprecedented lengths to cloak its attack on constitutionally protected rights behind a nominally private cause of action, it nonetheless has compelled its judicial branch to serve as enforcer. And they're saying that is unconstitutional.
Because they are deputizing people.
Because they are forcing a different branch of government to enforce.
Oh, the law.
The law.
Which is, are they? Well, yes, because the enforcers of the law are PD. Are they not? Like, the law enforcers are the police department.
Not in this case. Police department has nothing.
Right, but like that's how
it should be.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what their argument is. They're circumnavigating
right.
The law enforcement part of this.
You're making your judicial branch law enforcement.
Which is not what they do.
Which is not a province of the judicial branch.
Yeah. Which is in and of itself unconstitutional. Is that what that's saying?
Basically, that is correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Do you want to just wrap up 11 and then we'll call it a day? Wrap up page 11?
Yeah, because the paragraph doesn't bleed over into page 12.
Right.
Next paragraph, paragraph 33. Under the state action doctrine, private actors may also be found to function as agents or arms of the state itself and are thus bound by the Constitution. I believe that's just what I said.
Yeah.
And then 34, the Supreme Court has deemed individuals to be state actors where they exercise, quote, powers traditionally exclusively reserved to the state, like they are in this case. Basically, SB 8 vests individuals with law enforcement authority, a power traditionally reserved exclusively to a sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why you can't prosecute somebody for murder. The
Right.
state has to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Among other things, SB 8 does so by providing individuals with unsupervised authority to police violations of law and enabling them to obtain civil penalties against anyone in the state without a showing of personal injury.
That calls out the $10,000 reward, essentially, which is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, basic American jurisprudence, you need to have standing to bring a lawsuit against somebody. You have to be injured. You have to have damages.
And that's the thing. Even though the lawsuit, quote unquote, clarifies the injury, there is no injury there. And like, I want to know, like, why can't they prove that there's an injury before they can pass that law? Like, that's so stupid.
The law itself gives them a statutory injury. And without it, they wouldn't be able to bring a lawsuit.
But it doesn't make any sense because there is no injury to them.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, with that, that's the end of the podcast, y'all. How do you want to wrap this up?
Oh,
how do you want to?
How do you usually wrap it up?
Do you have any lasting comments, or do you want to wait until we're finished?
I want to wait until we're finished because if something like this, goes and gets to the Supreme Court and they uphold it, just wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up the podcast. We're going to close this out. Thank you so much for listening to Learning the Law. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share in all your favorite places. You're going to find it hosted live on YouTube. Just look for Learning the Law and use the hashtag Learning the Law on all social media to find and follow in more places. You can find Ron on Twitter at Necrokijo. That's Necrokijo. And me at Phoenix Nymphy. You can also find the podcast itself at Learning the Law on Twitter. Please, if you have any questions, tweet us, comment, or email at twolazydogsmedia@gmail.com. This has been a Two Lazy Dogs production.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.